attention to that man behind the curtain. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
You've got a small group of multinational corporations who control the entire food system. From seed to the supermarket, they're gaining control of food.
This isn't just about what we're eating. This is about what we're allowed to say, what we're allowed to know. It's not just our health that's at risk.
The companies don't want farmers talking. They don't want this story told.
Not only do they not want you to know what's in it, they have managed to make it against the law to criticize their products.
There has been this revolving door between Monsanto's corporate offices and the various regulatory and judicial bodies that have made the key decisions.
Justice Clarence Thomas was a Monsanto attorney. That wouldn't be such a big deal if it weren't for one court case that really decided this whole seed saving issue. Justice Clarence Thomas wrote the majority opinion in a case that allowed these companies to prevent farmers from saving their own seed.
Monsanto had very close ties to the Bush administration and the Clinton administration.
And this goes to why we haven't had much political debate over this radical change to our food system.
The last 25 years, our government has been dominated by the industries that it was meant to be regulating.
The challenge is sometimes you have people with expertise in industry that may turn out to be really good regulators. It's really about what interests they decide to represent.
These companies fight tooth and nail against labeling. The fast food industry fought against giving you the calorie information. They fought against telling you if there's trans fat in their food. The meatpacking industry for years prevented country of origin labeling. They fought not to label genetically modified foods. And now 70% of the processed food in the supermarket has some genetically modified ingredient.
I think it's one of the most important battles for consumers to fight is the right to know what's in their food and how it was grown.
You're talking about power, centralized power. And that power is being used against the people who are really producing the food, like the farmers. It's being used against the workers who work for these companies. And it's being used against consumers who are deliberately being kept in the dark about what they're eating, where it comes from, and what it's doing to their bodies.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
When you genetically modify a crop, you own it. We've never had this in agriculture.
It used to be that your land-grant universities, they developed what was called public seed. The vast majority of the plant breeding was actually done in these public institutions.
Monsanto's very much like Microsoft. The same way Microsoft owns the intellectual property behind most computers in America, they set out to own the intellectual property behind most of the food in America.
Public plant breeding is a thing of the past. There virtually are no public seeds anymore.
One of the most controversial aspects of the gene revolution is the patenting of seeds.
There was a very good reason why for virtually 200 years the Patent Office and Congress did not allow for the patenting of life.
The right to patent is guaranteed by Article 1 in the Constitution. Food crops were deliberately excluded from patenting on moral grounds. The issue of patenting life has never been voted on by the people or the Congress of the United States.
It actually means giving corporations, incredibly, the power to own, control the species of the earth.
While corporations were patenting everything under the sun, they were also busy in another area.
Starting at about 1995, the stock market was running up, and Monsanto was buying up seed companies, and DuPont was buying Pioneer, and there was this, basically, the U.S. pesticide industry bought the seed industry for all intents and purposes.
Monsanto spends $8 billion buying up seed companies. By the 1990s, corporations begin patenting not only GMO seeds, but seeds that haven't been genetically engineered. The only requirement is that they have not been patented before.
It's one of the wonderful things about what our government's done for the years with seeds is trying to save seeds so that we can preserve biodiversity. What companies have done is gone into those seed banks, find the seeds that aren't patented, and patent them. And as long as they're the first person at the patent office, they get the patent.
It is estimated that Monsanto owns 11,000 patents.
Why would corporations do this? Because then they can take the one seed they want to use to replace all these seeds, and it will own the marketplace.
Patents historically have been for things like, I've used the example of a carburetor. Well, a carburetor doesn't get up one day and start replicating itself everywhere and introducing itself into your car so that all of a sudden you have somebody else's carburetor one morning and then you get sued for patent infringement. So that's the unique nature of this type of technology, that once you've unleashed it into the environment, uncontrolled and unconfined, it will spread everywhere.
Number two, which is most important one, I think, he ruled any farmer that has a regular conventional plant, it doesn't matter what kind of plant, if it's a tree, if it's a seed, and it gets cross-pollinated with Monsanto's gene against your wishes and destroys your property, my plant becomes Monsanto's property. Now stop and think what that means to farmers all over the world, farmers, gardeners, anything to do with a life-giving form.
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no.
Oh, hell no.
Since GMOs were considered substantially equivalent to regular food, they fall into the GRAS, or Generally Recognized as Safe category, and the government does not require testing or labeling.
To me, one of the most incomprehensible things about U.S. policy is that we do not even require the labeling of genetically engineered foods.
Many of those GMOs are in the form of corn syrup and soy lecithin. Poll after poll has revealed that 80 to 90% of Americans want GMO food labeled. But the Genetically Engineered Food Right to Know Act that Representative Kucinich, Senator Boxer, and others have introduced every year since 1999 is still waiting to be voted on by Congress.
But I think there's a very good reason why the corporations have fought so hard against this labeling. It isn't just about consumer choice. Without labeling, there's no real traceability for the health effects of genetically engineered foods. If you're a mother and you're feeding your baby infant formula, and it's not labeled that it's genetically engineered with soy, for example, and your child has a toxic or allergic reaction, there's no way you're going to know that that was caused by genetic engineering because it's not on the label. If, however, it is on the label, then you can say, you know what, maybe that contributed to this response in my child. You go to your doctor records it, and there's traceability, and we can begin to get a database on the health effects. And of course, once that database is created, then we have liability to the corporations. So they're opposing labeling, not just because it creates choice and they're afraid that their products will not be bought, but also because labeling is the key way we can trace the health effects of genetically engineered foods and the key way to get the corporations liable for these health effects.
Oh, hell no!
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no!
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole? I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up. Ironically, this is not far from the truth. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something.
This is a war, and we are soldiers. Death can come for us at any time, in any place. Now consider the alternative. What if I am right? What if the prophecy is true? Isn't that worth fighting for? Isn't that worth dying for?
For the guy at the bottom of the pyramid, it's about the money. For the guy at the top, it's about control. Control of the real money, natural resources. When all we have left is the earth, what good will your $100 bill do you? Can it make water fall from the heavens? Can it make food spring forth from the earth? Can it fill your lungs with life-giving oxygen? They've given us food, monopoly money to play with, and we will kill one another in the street for it. While behind the scenes, they are taking control of life resources, air, land, food, and water. It's not about money, it's about control. It's about control.
So I strongly suggest that you wake the f up.